This is the ultimate fall dish. It's cozy, it's warm, it's rich, it's sweater weather pasta. One look, and I breathe. Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Crisp by Kristen. Today I'm in the kitchen making a butternut squash pasta, which is my interpretation of a deconstructed butternut squash ravioli. Because what I'm doing here is I'm taking all the elements that would be in the ravioli, the butternut squash, the aromatics, the ricotta cheese, the brown sugar, and making this decadent sauce that I'm going to mix with the pasta, and then I'm going to top with some roasted walnuts, Parmesan cheese, and some lemon zest. So let's get started. Squash, 3 or 4 tablespoons of olive oil, and then in goes my cinnamon, my cumin, brown sugar, and then my salt. And I am a little bit conservative on my salt because I never want to over salt my food. Later on in the recipe, if we need to add more salt, we can always add it. A little bit of black pepper, and then I'm going to throw my onions in. Okay, so now I'm going to add my squash and my onions to a sheet pan. There's going to be some extra bits in the bowl, so just pour it all. So before I put it in the oven, I'm just going to arrange all the squash so all of the flat sides really hit the sheet pan, because that'll give that nice caramelization on the squash. Looks great. Okay, actually one more step before I put it in the oven. I'm going to just reserve a little bit of space closest to me, because when there's about 10 minutes left of the squash, I'm going to add my walnuts, so I just want to be able to easily put them in the sheet pan. I'm going to put the squash and the onions in a 400-degree oven for about 30 minutes. Okay, in they go. Okay, so while the squash is cooking, I'm going to make my pasta. I'm using a rigatoni for this, but feel free to use any pasta that you like or that you have on hand. Even a flat noodle I think would be really good, but I'm going to use a rigatoni because I have it and I like it. I'm also going to cook this for only 2 people, so I'm not going to use the whole bag, and I'm definitely going to have sauce left over, which I'm going to just freeze and use it for the next time when I want to have this dish. Okay, so my pasta is almost ready, and I'm going to reserve about 2 cups of pasta water because we're going to need it to make the sauce. I cooked the pasta about 1 to 2 minutes less than the instructions told me, because when I put this in the sauce, it's going to continue cooking. So you want it a little bit more al dente. Perfect. Okay, so there's about 10 minutes left with my squash, so I'm going to put in the walnuts to toast. I'm about at the 30-minute mark, and I think I actually need a little bit more time on the butternut squash. So I'm going to leave this in for another 10 minutes or so, but I am going to take out my walnuts so they don't burn. Okay, so I just took my squash out and it wound up cooking for closer to 40 minutes, but that's fine. The squash is done. We're going to blend it with ricotta cheese, some of that reserved pasta water, and make a really decadent sauce. Then we're going to mix it with the pasta, plate it, and you're going to see how delicious it's going to look. You definitely don't want to add all the pasta water at once. You want to add just a little bit at a time. You might need the whole thing, you might not. So I wound up using almost all of the pasta water. And at this point, you want to taste test, make sure you don't need to add any salt. Actually, perfect. So before I add in the sauce, I'm going to add a little bit of butter. Okay, this is where it all comes together. Sauce meets pasta. Look how decadent and creamy that sauce looks. If you do have more pasta water, though, you can add it now to thin out the sauce. And as predicted, I have a ton of sauce left over, so I'm going to freeze this to make more pasta. All good pasta recipes, I'm going to add just a little bit of lemon zest to brighten it up a little. Now I'm ready to plate. I started by plating the pasta, then added those toasted walnuts, added some Parmesan cheese, fresh thyme leaves, and flaky sea salt. Okay, wow, it smells so good. I can't wait to taste it. It's perfect. Creaminess of the ricotta, the sweetness from the butternut squash, the nuttiness of the walnuts, the saltiness from the parm. I had sprinkled some thyme leaves on top, so that flavor is really coming through. It's perfect. It's so good. It's butternut squash ravioli, or deconstructed butternut squash ravioli. So excited for you guys to try this recipe. Let me know what you think if you make it. Tag me at Crisp by Kristen. The only thing that's left now is to cozy up in a big sweater. Enjoy your sweater weather pasta.